In every age, there appears a wisdom that speaks to the deepest yearnings of the human soul. The Rosicrucian manuscripts represent not merely historical documents, but doorways to dimensions of consciousness that modern minds have forgotten how to access. Imagine a Europe torn by religious wars and intellectual upheaval. The year is 1614. As darkness seems to engulf the continent, a mysterious manuscript appears in Kassel, Germany. Its pages contain extraordinary claims of a secret brotherhood possessing ancient wisdom that could transform humanity. This document, known as the Fama Fraternitatis, would spark a movement that continues to intrigue and inspire seekers of truth today. The manuscript speaks of a brotherhood founded by the enigmatic Christian Rosenkreuz, a figure who journeyed to the East and returned with esoteric knowledge capable of healing the spiritual wounds of Europe. But was this brotherhood real? Did Rosenkreuz truly exist? Or was this elaborate tale something far more profound? A coded invitation to an inner alchemical journey. What makes the Rosicrucian manuscript truly extraordinary is not just its historical significance, but the transformative secrets it claims to contain. The Fama Fraternitatis was not merely announcing a brotherhood, it was declaring the possibility of a new dawn for humanity, one where science and spirituality could unite in perfect harmony. Tonight, we will decode the most profound elements of the Rosicrucian manuscripts and reveal how their alchemical wisdom offers a path to enlightenment that remains as relevant today as it was 4 centuries ago. By the end of our journey, you will understand why these texts have captivated some of history's greatest minds, and how they might hold the key to awakening the divine potential that lies dormant within each of us. The Rosicrucian story begins during one of Europe's most turbulent periods. The early 17th century was a time of profound transformation. The 30 Years' War was brewing, the scientific revolution was challenging ancient beliefs, and the Protestant Reformation had fractured the religious unity of the continent. Amid this chaos, people yearned for stability, for meaning, for some higher truth that could make sense of their rapidly changing world. It was against this backdrop that the Fama Fraternitatis emerged, its Latin title translating to the Fame of the Brotherhood. The manuscript described a secret society founded by Christian Rosenkreuz, who had supposedly lived for 106 years, from 1378 to 1484. According to the text, Rosenkreuz had traveled to Damascus, Egypt, and Fez, where he studied with Arab sages, learning secrets of mathematics, physics, and mystical wisdom unknown to European scholars. The Fama contained a passage that electrified readers across Europe. God hath certainly and most assuredly promised us a new light, which shall arise in the hearts of men, and a new reformation of all arts and sciences. These words, appearing at the dawn of the scientific age, suggested something revolutionary, that true knowledge comes not just from external observation, but from inner illumination. What if this manuscript wasn't merely announcing a brotherhood, but inviting you to embark on your own journey of transformation? The central figure of the Rosicrucian narrative, Christian Rosenkreuz, remains one of the most compelling enigmas in esoteric history. His very name, combining Christian with rose and cross, suggests a symbolic rather than literal identity. According to the Fama Fraternitatis, this German monk embarked on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land in his 16th year, but never reached his intended destination. Instead, he was diverted to Damascus, where Arab sages recognized his exceptional potential and initiated him into their mysteries. The manuscript describes how Rosenkreuz continued his journey to Egypt and Fez, gathering knowledge from Islamic mystics, Jewish Kabbalists, and guardians of ancient Egyptian wisdom. He attempted to share these revelations with European scholars upon his return, but was met with ridicule and rejection. Undeterred, he gathered a small circle of disciples, the original Rosicrucian Brotherhood, and established a sanctuary called the House of the Holy Spirit. Perhaps the most captivating element of the Rosenkreuz legend is the discovery of his tomb, supposedly found 120 years after his death. The Fama describes this moment in vivid detail. In his tomb was found a round altar covered with plates of brass, and thereon this inscription: "This compendium of the universe I made in my lifetime, to be my tomb." This circular altar, representing cosmic wholeness, contained secret books of wisdom and a mysterious ever-burning lamp, symbols of eternal knowledge and divine illumination. This tomb, with its perfect preservation and symbolic contents, suggests something profound about the Rosicrucian path. Could this chamber represent not a physical burial place, but the inner sanctuary of the transformed soul? The eternal lamp might symbolize the awakened consciousness that never dims once true enlightenment is achieved. Many scholars today believe Christian Rosenkreuz was not a historical figure, but an allegorical representation of the spiritual seeker. His name combines Christian mysticism with the rose and cross, dual symbols of beauty and suffering, love and sacrifice. His 106-year lifespan might represent the completion of an alchemical process rather than a literal lifetime. The Second Rosicrucian Manifesto, the Confessio Fraternitatis, published in 1615, expanded on the Brotherhood's mission, declaring, "We speak unto you by parables, but would willingly bring you to the right, simple, easy, and ingenuous exposition, understanding, declaration, and knowledge of all secrets." Theos. This suggests that the entire Rosicrucian narrative might itself be a parable, a symbolic container for transformative wisdom. Whether Rosenkreuz lived or not, his story became a powerful catalyst for spiritual awakening across Europe. The manuscripts inspired countless seekers to look beyond the limitations of conventional religion and science toward a more integrated understanding of reality. The Brotherhood claimed to possess the ability to communicate telepathically, to heal the sick, and to read the book of nature directly, suggesting levels of consciousness far beyond ordinary awareness. What deeper meaning might we find if we view Rosenkreuz not as a historical figure, but as the awakened self that each of us can become? At the core of Rosicrucian teaching lies alchemy, not merely as a primitive form of chemistry, but as a comprehensive system for transformation of both matter and consciousness. The manuscripts describe alchemy in terms that transcend the popular image of medieval charlatans attempting to turn lead into gold. For the Rosicrucians, alchemy was nothing less than the science of creation itself, a method for understanding and participating in the divine creative process. The Fama Fraternitatis contains a passage that illuminates this perspective. "We have a knowledge of the signatures of all things, and our book of nature is open to us, whereby we do imitate the creation in our laboratory." Sif. This remarkable statement suggests that Rosicrucians could read the hidden qualities or signatures of natural objects and substances, perceiving their inner essence and purpose within the greater cosmic design. This alchemical worldview rests on several fundamental principles. First is the concept of correspondence, as above, so below. The idea that patterns repeat across different levels of reality, from the microscopic to the cosmic. Second is the principle of vibration, that everything exists in a state of motion or frequency. Third is polarity, that opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. These principles formed the foundation of Rosicrucian alchemical practice. The rose and cross, central symbols of the Brotherhood, contain profound alchemical meaning. The rose represents the soul in its journey toward perfection, its petals unfurling as consciousness expands. The cross symbolizes the four elements, and the material world through which the spirit must pass in its journey toward enlightenment. Together, they represent the integration of spirit and matter, the divine and human. Perhaps the most significant alchemical concept in Rosicrucian teaching is the philosopher's stone, not a literal stone, but the culmination of the great work of spiritual transformation. The manuscripts suggest that this stone represents a state of consciousness in which the seeker has transmuted the lead of ordinary awareness into the gold of spiritual illumination. The chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz, the third Rosicrucian Manifesto published in 1616, presents this alchemical journey as an allegorical marriage. In this narrative, Rosenkreuz is invited to a royal wedding, undergoing 7 days of trials and initiations that parallel the stages of alchemical transformation: calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, and coagulation. What makes Rosicrucian alchemy distinctive is its integration of multiple traditions. It draws from Hermetic texts, Arabic alchemical writings, Jewish Kabbalah, and Christian mysticism, creating a universal approach to spiritual development. The manuscripts describe how the Brotherhood maintained laboratories where they conducted both physical experiments and spiritual practices, seeing no contradiction between scientific inquiry and mystical contemplation. A passage from the Confessio reveals this integrated perspective. Our philosophy is not a new invention, but as Adam received it after his fall, and as Moses and Solomon used it. This claim to ancient lineage suggests that the Rosicrucians viewed their alchemical wisdom not as innovation, but as the recovery of a primordial science known to the greatest sages throughout history. Could this ancient alchemical science offer modern seekers a more profound understanding of consciousness than our current materialistic paradigms? The Rosicrucian movement emerged through 3 primary manifestos, each building upon and expanding the mysteries introduced by its predecessor. Together, they form a progressive revelation of esoteric wisdom that continues to challenge and inspire seekers today. The first manifesto, the Fama Fraternitatis, appeared in 1614, initially circulating in manuscript form before being published in Kassel, Germany. Written in German rather than the scholarly Latin of the day, it reached a broader audience than typical esoteric texts. The Fama introduced the legend of Christian Rosenkreuz and announced the existence of the Brotherhood, describing their mission to heal the sick without payment, to gather and preserve threatened knowledge, and to work toward a universal reformation of arts and sciences. The Fama concludes with an invitation and a warning. "We speak unto you by parables, but would willingly bring you to the right, simple, easy, and ingenuous exposition, understanding, declaration, and knowledge of all secrets." This suggests that the text itself operates on multiple levels, containing hidden meanings accessible only to those prepared to perceive them. The second manifesto, the Confessio Fraternitatis, published in 1615, expanded the Brotherhood's mission and addressed criticisms that had emerged in response to the Fama. Written in Latin, it targeted a more educated audience and adopted a more explicitly Christian tone while maintaining its revolutionary spirit. The Confessio contains a passage that captures its essence. "The Almighty hath shadowed his wisdom in such a manner that it is revealed only to those who are humble and lowly of heart." This emphasizes that Rosicrucian knowledge is not merely intellectual, but requires spiritual preparation and moral development. The Confessio also makes bold prophetic claims, suggesting that the Brotherhood possessed knowledge that would transform European society. Europe is pregnant and will bring forth a strong child who shall stand in need of great godparents. This child might be interpreted as a new age of enlightenment, born from the union of spiritual wisdom and scientific inquiry. The third and most enigmatic manifesto, The Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz, appeared in 1616. Unlike its predecessors, this text takes the form of an allegorical narrative, describing a 7-day journey during which Rosenkreuz witnesses and participates in a mysterious royal wedding. Rich with alchemical symbolism, the chemical wedding portrays the stages of spiritual transformation through vivid imagery and symbolic encounters. One of the most striking passages describes how Rosenkreuz and other wedding guests are weighed on a golden scale to determine their worthiness. He who undertakes too much unpreparedly is easily overwhelmed and made ridiculous. This suggests that spiritual development cannot be rushed or approached without proper preparation and self-knowledge. The authorship of these manifestos remained anonymous at the time of publication, creating tremendous speculation across Europe. Many scholars now attribute them primarily to Johann Valentin Andreae, a Lutheran theologian and mystic who later claimed authorship of The Chemical Wedding, describing it as a ludibrium or playful fiction. However, the question remains whether Andrea was the sole author or part of a collaborative effort. What unites these three texts is their revolutionary vision of a world transformed through the integration of spiritual wisdom and scientific knowledge. They emerged at a pivotal moment in European history, when the medieval worldview was giving way to modern scientific thinking. The Rosicrucian Manifestos offered a third path, one that embraced scientific inquiry while preserving the spiritual dimension of human experience. What hidden messages might still await discovery in these enigmatic texts, 4 centuries after their first appearance? The Rosicrucian teachings did not emerge from a vacuum, but drew upon ancient streams of wisdom that had flowed, often underground, throughout human history. Understanding these connections reveals how the Rosicrucian path represents a synthesis of diverse esoteric traditions, adapted for the dawn of the modern era. Perhaps the most significant influence on Rosicrucian thought was Hermeticism, based on texts attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, a legendary Egyptian sage. The Corpus Hermeticum, rediscovered and translated in Renaissance Italy, presented a vision of the cosmos as a living, interconnected whole, permeated by divine intelligence. The Hermetic maxim, as above, so below, became fundamental to Rosicrucian philosophy, suggesting that the patterns of the macrocosm are reflected in the microcosm of human existence. The Fama explicitly acknowledges this lineage. Our philosophy is not new, but as Adam received it after the fall, and as Moses and Solomon used it. This claim to ancient wisdom connects Rosicrucianism to a primordial tradition supposedly preserved through biblical figures and ancient mystery schools. Jewish Kabbalah provided another crucial influence, particularly its understanding of creation as a process of divine emanation through the Sephiroth, or spheres of manifestation. The Kabbalistic tree of life, with its intricate system of correspondences between cosmos, human body, and consciousness, offered a framework that Rosicrucians integrated into their alchemical practices. From Islamic mysticism, particularly Sufism, Rosicrucian thought absorbed concepts of the perfected human being and techniques for spiritual realization. The Fama's account of Rosenkreuz studying with Arab sages in Damascus and Fez reflects the historical reality that Islamic civilization preserved and expanded upon Greek, Egyptian, and Persian wisdom during Europe's Middle Ages. Paracelsus, the revolutionary 16th-century physician and alchemist, provided a more immediate influence. His integration of medicine, alchemy, and astrology, along with his emphasis on direct observation of nature rather than reliance on ancient authorities, prefigured the Rosicrucian approach to knowledge. Fascinatingly, parallels to Rosicrucian concepts appear in traditions worldwide. In China, Taoist internal alchemy sought the creation of the golden pill, or immortal spirit body, through meditative practices and the circulation of vital energies. Like Rosicrucian alchemy, it employed laboratory terminology to describe internal spiritual processes. In India, Tantric traditions developed sophisticated methods for awakening Kundalini energy and achieving spiritual illumination through the integration of opposing forces, comparable to the Rosicrucian work of reconciling opposites in the alchemical process. Even indigenous shamanic traditions, with their emphasis on communication with nature spirits and journeys to other realms of consciousness, find echoes in the Rosicrucian claim to read the signatures of natural objects and access higher dimensions of reality. What makes the Rosicrucian synthesis remarkable is how it adapted these diverse influences to address the specific challenges of early modern Europe. As the unified medieval worldview fractured under the pressures of religious reformation and scientific discovery, the Rosicrucian manifestos offered a vision that could potentially heal this division. A path that honored both empirical investigation and spiritual insight. The Fama describes the Brotherhood's mission in terms that speak directly to this integration. Though we could enrich the whole world and endue them with learning, yet we should not be manifested unto any man, except God, should specially incline him to seek our fraternity. This suggests that Rosicrucian knowledge is not merely intellectual, but requires a specific quality of consciousness, an inner readiness that transcends conventional education. Did the Rosicrucians discover a universal wisdom that transcends cultural boundaries? Or did they create a new synthesis uniquely suited to bridge ancient and modern worldviews? The influence of the Rosicrucian manifestos extends far beyond their original 17th century context, shaping movements and institutions that continue to impact our world today. Their vision of integrated knowledge and spiritual transformation has inspired generations of seekers, scientists, artists, and social reformers. In the decades following the publication of the manifestos, a Rosicrucian fever swept across Europe. Countless individuals sought contact with the mysterious Brotherhood, posting public notices declaring their readiness to be considered for membership. Though the original Brotherhood, if it existed as described, never responded publicly, the manifestos catalyzed a widespread movement of self-initiated study and practice. By the late 17th century, Rosicrucian ideas had significantly influenced the formation of Freemasonry, particularly its higher degrees, with their emphasis on symbolic initiation and esoteric knowledge. The Royal Society, founded in 1660, embodied the Rosicrucian ideal of collaborative scientific inquiry, though it emphasized empirical research over mystical revelation. The 18th and 19th centuries saw the emergence of numerous Rosicrucian-inspired organizations, each claiming connection to the original Brotherhood. The Gold- und Rosenkreuz Order in Germany, the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia in England, and later the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, all developed elaborate initiatory systems based partly on Rosicrucian principles. A passage from the Fama seems to have anticipated this proliferation. Our building, although 1,000 could not finish it, shall stand forever, and the secrets thereof shall remain untouched. This suggests that the Rosicrucian work transcends any single organization or historical period. It is an ongoing process of spiritual construction that continues through generations of seekers. In the modern era, several organizations continue the Rosicrucian tradition. Most prominently, the ancient mystical order Rosicrucis, AMRC, founded in 1915 by Harvey Spencer Lewis. AMRC presents Rosicrucian teachings as a systematic course of study, emphasizing practical techniques for developing intuition, healing abilities, and expanded consciousness. Beyond formal organizations, Rosicrucian concepts have permeated Western culture in subtle but significant ways. The ideal of the scientist mystic, exemplified by figures like Isaac Newton, who conducted alchemical experiments alongside his mathematical and physical research, owes much to the Rosicrucian integration of spiritual and material knowledge. In literature and art, Rosicrucian themes appear in works ranging from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's Fairy Tale of the Green Snake and the Beautiful Lily, to William Butler Yeats's poetry and the surrealist paintings of Max Ernst. More recently, novels like Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum and films exploring esoteric conspiracies reflect the enduring fascination with Rosicrucian mysteries. The Rosicrucian emphasis on personal transformation through systematic practice has influenced modern approaches to spiritual development, from depth psychology to contemporary mindfulness techniques. Carl Jung, whose analytical psychology draws heavily on alchemical symbolism, acknowledged his debt to Rosicrucian concepts of individuation and the integration of opposing aspects of the psyche. Perhaps most significantly, the Rosicrucian vision of a world healed through the harmonious integration of science, art, philosophy, and spirituality continues to inspire those seeking alternatives to both religious dogmatism and scientific materialism. In an age of ecological crisis and technological acceleration, the Rosicrucian ideal of wisdom that honors both objective knowledge and subjective experience offers a balanced approach to human development. A growing number of scholars and practitioners today are re-examining the Rosicrucian manuscripts with fresh eyes, recognizing them not merely as historical curiosities, but as encoded wisdom that may be increasingly relevant to our contemporary challenges. As artificial intelligence and virtual reality transform our relationship with consciousness itself, the Rosicrucian understanding of reality as multidimensional and consciousness as transformable takes on new significance. Have you ever sensed that there might be deeper dimensions to reality than our conventional worldview acknowledges? The Rosicrucian path suggests you might be perceiving something real. While the historical mysteries of the Rosicrucian movement continue to fascinate scholars, the practical wisdom contained in their manuscripts offers something potentially more valuable: a systematic approach to personal transformation that can be applied regardless of one's formal affiliations. The Rosicrucian path, stripped of its historical trappings, presents a remarkably comprehensive system for developing human potential. At its foundation, Rosicrucian practice begins with self-knowledge. The Confessio Fraternitatis emphasizes this starting point. Before the universe can be known, the knower must first know himself. This echoes the ancient Greek maxim, "Know thyself," inscribed at the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, suggesting that objective knowledge must be balanced by subjective awareness. This self-knowledge extends beyond psychological introspection to include understanding one's place in the cosmic order. Rosicrucian teachings present humans as microcosms, miniature versions of the universe itself, containing all the elements, forces, and potentials found in the greater cosmos. Through this correspondence, self-discovery becomes a pathway to universal knowledge. Meditation forms a cornerstone of Rosicrucian practice. While the original manuscripts do not detail specific techniques, they allude to methods for quieting the mind and accessing higher states of consciousness. Modern Rosicrucian orders teach progressive meditation exercises, often focusing on visualization, breath control, and the contemplation of symbolic images that activate deeper levels of awareness. The study of natural law constitutes another essential aspect of the Rosicrucian approach. The Fama describes how the Brotherhood members read the Book of Nature directly, perceiving the underlying patterns and principles that govern physical reality. This suggests developing a heightened awareness of natural cycles, elemental qualities, and the subtle energies that animate living systems. Visualization practices play a crucial role in Rosicrucian development. By creating and maintaining vivid mental images, practitioners learn to direct consciousness deliberately, rather than allowing it to wander aimlessly. These techniques draw on the alchemical principle that imagination is a genuine creative force, capable of affecting both subjective experience and, potentially, objective reality. Sound and music receive special attention in Rosicrucian practice. The manifestos mention harmonies and vibrations as keys to understanding cosmic order. Modern Rosicrucian teachings include specific tonal exercises designed to attune the practitioner to different frequencies of consciousness, based on the principle that sound can directly affect mental and emotional states. Service to humanity represents an essential component of the Rosicrucian path. The Fama emphasizes that Brotherhood members healed the sick without payment and worked toward universal reformation. This suggests that spiritual development must be balanced by practical compassion, that inner illumination naturally expresses itself through beneficial action in the world. Perhaps most distinctively, Rosicrucian practice integrates these various elements into a coherent system, rather than treating them as separate disciplines. Meditation informs the study of natural law. Visualization enhances healing work. Service provides a context for applying inner development. This holistic approach reflects the Rosicrucian principle that all aspects of reality are interconnected. Modern practitioners report that consistent application of these principles leads to tangible benefits: enhanced intuition, greater emotional balance, improved concentration, more harmonious relationships, and a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. Some describe more extraordinary experiences: vivid dreams, synchronicities, heightened sensory awareness, and moments of profound insight or illumination. The Rosicrucian approach to knowledge itself offers a valuable corrective to our contemporary tendency toward specialization. Rather than dividing reality into separate domains of expertise, it seeks the underlying principles that connect diverse fields of study. This integrative perspective becomes increasingly relevant as we face complex global challenges that transcend traditional disciplinary boundaries. What makes the Rosicrucian path particularly suitable for our time is its emphasis on individual verification rather than blind belief. The manifestos repeatedly stress that true knowledge comes through direct experience rather than external authority. Each person must test and confirm the teachings through their own practice, developing discernment rather than dependence on gurus or institutions. Have you noticed how certain practices, perhaps meditation, creative visualization, or contemplation of nature, seem to expand your awareness beyond ordinary limits? The Rosicrucian tradition suggests these experiences may be glimpses of your greater potential. As we conclude our exploration of the Rosicrucian manuscripts, we return to the fundamental question they pose. What if the greatest alchemy is not the transformation of metals, but the transformation of consciousness itself? The enduring power of these texts lies not in their historical claims or organizational structures, but in their invitation to a journey of perpetual discovery and unfoldment. The Fama Fraternitatis concludes with words that still resonate across the centuries. Our door shall be opened to the whole world unto such as come unto us, and it shall not be said that we have vainly come into the world. This suggests that the true Rosicrucian legacy is not a closed system of knowledge, but an open doorway to expanded awareness, available to anyone willing to undertake the necessary inner work. What distinguishes the Rosicrucian approach from many spiritual traditions is its emphasis on integration rather than transcendence. The goal is not to escape the material world, but to transform our relationship with it, to perceive and participate in the sacred dimension of everyday reality. The rose blooming from the cross symbolizes this perfectly. Spirit flourishing through matter, not despite it. This integration extends to the relationship between science and spirituality. At a time when these domains are often perceived as contradictory, the Rosicrucian manuscripts offer a vision of their essential unity. The Brotherhood members were described as both scientists and mystics, conducting experiments in their laboratories while cultivating inner illumination through meditation and contemplation. A passage from the Confessio captures this integrative vision. God hath revealed unto us in the latter days a more perfect knowledge, both of his Son, Jesus Christ, and of nature. This suggests that spiritual revelation and natural discovery are complementary paths to truth, each illuminating the other when properly understood. Perhaps the most radical aspect of the Rosicrucian teaching is its democratization of spiritual knowledge. While ancient mystery schools often restricted their teachings to a select elite, the Rosicrucian manifestos, despite their cryptic language, were published openly, making their core ideas available to anyone who could read. This represented a revolutionary break with esoteric traditions that guarded their secrets through elaborate initiations and oaths of silence. The manuscripts suggest that this openness was deliberate. We do not intend to hide our knowledge under a bushel, but to share it with those who are worthy. This worthiness was defined not by social status or formal education, but by sincere aspiration and moral development, qualities potentially present in people from all walks of life. This democratizing impulse finds expression in the Rosicrucian emphasis on direct experience over dogmatic belief. The manifestos repeatedly stress that true knowledge comes through personal verification rather than acceptance of authority. Each seeker must test the teachings through their own practice, developing discernment rather than dependence on external validation. For contemporary seekers, this aspect of the Rosicrucian approach offers a valuable alternative to both religious fundamentalism and scientific materialism. It honors the empirical method of science while recognizing dimensions of experience that transcend material measurement. It respects spiritual traditions while encouraging critical thinking and personal verification. The Rosicrucian path also offers a response to the fragmentation that characterizes much of modern life. In an age of specialization, when knowledge is divided into increasingly narrow domains, the Rosicrucian vision of integrated wisdom provides a counterbalance, a reminder that reality is fundamentally whole, despite our tendency to analyze it into separate parts. This holistic perspective becomes particularly relevant as we face complex global challenges that transcend traditional boundaries between disciplines. Climate change, technological disruption, social inequality. These issues cannot be adequately addressed through specialized knowledge alone. They require the kind of integrative thinking that the Rosicrucian tradition has cultivated for centuries. At its heart, the Rosicrucian invitation is to awaken to the multidimensional nature of reality and our own consciousness. The manuscripts suggest that what we ordinarily perceive is merely the surface of a far richer and more complex cosmos, one that we can learn to navigate through systematic inner development. This awakening is not presented as an escape from worldly responsibilities, but as a foundation for more effective and compassionate action. The Brotherhood members were described as healers and teachers, using their expanded awareness to serve humanity rather than to withdraw from it. In this sense, the Rosicrucian path offers a middle way between worldly engagement and spiritual retreat, a path of what might be called engaged transcendence. It suggests that the highest wisdom naturally expresses itself through practical service. That illumination without application remains incomplete. As we stand at the threshold of unprecedented global challenges and opportunities, the Rosicrucian vision of humanity, transformed through the integration of science, art, philosophy, and spirituality, takes on new relevance. It offers not a fixed set of answers, but a method for developing the expanded awareness needed to navigate complexity and uncertainty. The question that echoes through the centuries since the first appearance of the Fama Fraternitatis remains as compelling today as it was then. What might become possible if we were to awaken the dormant potentials of human consciousness? The Rosicrucian manuscripts do not merely pose this question. They offer a practical pathway toward discovering the answer. Have you ever sensed that your ordinary consciousness might be just the beginning? That deeper dimensions of awareness await your discovery? The Rosicrucian manuscripts speak across 4 centuries with a message that resonates powerfully in our current moment. Transformation is possible. Not merely personal improvement or incremental change, but profound alchemical transmutation of consciousness itself. This final exploration examines how contemporary seekers might apply these ancient teachings to navigate the unique challenges and opportunities of our time. The Rosicrucian path begins with recognition, acknowledging that beneath the surface of ordinary reality lies a deeper dimension of meaning and purpose. This recognition often comes through what the manifestos call the call, moments when the veil between worlds thins, and we glimpse something beyond conventional understanding. These might be experiences in nature, encounters with art or music that move us inexplicably, dreams of unusual clarity, or spontaneous insights that seem to come from beyond our normal thinking. The manuscripts suggest that such experiences are not random but invitational, the first stirrings of an awakening process that can be consciously cultivated. A passage from the Confessio describes this initial recognition. When God speaks within the soul, all other voices must be silent. This suggests developing the capacity to distinguish between the endless chatter of conditioned thinking and the subtler promptings of deeper awareness. For today's seeker, this cultivation might begin with simple practices of presence and attention, learning to observe the constant stream of thoughts without being completely identified with them. The Rosicrucian emphasis on meditation provides a foundation for this development, creating spaces of inner silence where deeper currents of consciousness can be perceived. The next stage involves what alchemists called calcination, the burning away of false identities and limiting beliefs. The Rosicrucian manuscripts describe this as a necessary purification. That which is impure must be separated from that which is pure. This suggests examining the conditioned patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior that may have served us in the past but now restrict our further development. In contemporary terms, this might involve questioning assumptions about who we are and what is possible, recognizing how cultural conditioning, family patterns, and personal history have shaped our sense of identity and limitation. The Rosicrucian approach suggests that much of what we take to be fixed aspects of ourselves are actually malleable constructs that can be transformed through conscious work. The alchemical process continues with what the tradition calls dissolution, opening to new possibilities beyond our familiar boundaries. The chemical wedding describes this symbolically as Rosenkreuz crossing a threshold into an unfamiliar realm where normal rules no longer apply. This suggests cultivating receptivity to dimensions of experience that transcend our usual categories of understanding. For modern practitioners, this might involve practices that expand awareness beyond conceptual thinking, deep immersion in nature, contemplation of art or music, movement practices that bypass the analytical mind, or structured methods for accessing non-ordinary states of consciousness. The goal is not escapism, but expansion, developing the capacity to perceive and navigate multiple dimensions of reality. The Rosicrucian path emphasizes that this expansion must be balanced by integration. The manifestos repeatedly stress the importance of bringing higher insights back into practical application. A passage from the Fama makes this explicit. True knowledge must bear fruit in the world. Unread. This suggests that authentic spiritual development naturally expresses itself through enhanced creativity, more compassionate relationships, and more effective service. In our contemporary context, This integration might involve bringing expanded awareness to our professional work, creative projects, community involvement, and personal relationships. The Rosicrucian ideal is not the isolated mystic, but the engaged transformer, someone whose inner development catalyzes positive change in their external environment. The manuscripts describe this integrated state using alchemical symbolism. The fixed and the volatile are united. This suggests a consciousness that can move fluidly between different modes of awareness: intuitive and analytical, receptive and active, individual and collective, without being exclusively identified with any of them. For today's seeker, perhaps the most valuable aspect of the Rosicrucian approach is its emphasis on balance and wholeness. In a culture that often fragments human experience into separate domains, work versus leisure, intellect versus emotion, material versus spiritual, the Rosicrucian path offers a vision of integrated development that honors all dimensions of our humanity. This integration extends to the relationship between individual and collective transformation. The manifestos describe the brotherhood working simultaneously on personal development and societal reformation, recognizing these as interconnected aspects of a single process. This suggests that inner work, when authentic, naturally flows outward into service and contribution. In our time of accelerating change and mounting global challenges, this integrated approach becomes increasingly relevant. The complex problems we face, ecological, technological, social, and spiritual, cannot be adequately addressed through fragmented awareness or specialized expertise alone. They require the kind of comprehensive understanding that the Rosicrucian tradition has cultivated for centuries. The Rosicrucian manuscripts conclude with a vision of possibility that still inspires. A time will come when that which is now hidden shall be revealed, and that which is now revealed shall be hidden. See, this suggests that our current understanding of reality represents just one configuration of consciousness, one that is already shifting toward a more expansive awareness of our place in the cosmic order. For those who feel drawn to this path of transformation, the manuscripts offer not a fixed doctrine but an open invitation to discover through direct experience the alchemical potential that lies dormant within each human being. The true philosopher's stone, they suggest, is not an external object, but an awakened consciousness capable of perceiving and participating in the sacred dimension of everyday reality. What if the secret Rosicrucian manuscript is not merely a historical document, but a living invitation, one that continues to speak to those who sense that there must be more to existence than our conventional understanding allows? Perhaps the greatest mystery is not what happened in the past, but what might yet unfold through the transformation of human consciousness in the present. Could the ancient alchemical promise, "As above, so below," be realized through your own journey of awakening?